Hello, everybody. This is Laura Victoria Ward in Inner Outer Space, and I am here in a Zoom room with other people. You are welcome to come. If you ever want to reach out to me at lauravictoriaward.com or no, lauravward.com, and you can reach me. Hello, is that Marilyn?
Yeah. Hi.
How are you?
You just call me Mar.
Mar.
Yeah. Well, I'm here again. I finally got a chance to come back since the last time.
And there's
about more of the continuum too. Yeah.
Okay, well, we may have a very inner day today because I know we have some different movement capacities in this group. And also, I would just want to invite you to take this really at your own rate. There's Hanan. Nice to see you. Yeah, I know. Give everyone a finger waggle to let them know you're here. Yeah. So I think we're going to take a slower version today. We'll see where it goes. But before we go, from the people who have been here more regularly, or even if you haven't, but no, let's go with the people who've been here more regularly. Do you have any questions? Is there anything that is like bubbling up of things that we've covered that you'd like more detail on? And if so, what is it? No? Okay. Any interest in a specific direction? If anything,
you're very clear. Well, yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. And we are going to start with, I think we might do the Inception meditation to come in for a landing. And so if you've seen the movie Inception, basically what happens is they start in one dream and they keep having to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a deeper dream. And so in a way, in meditation, that's kind of what we're going to do. Just go into a deeper, deeper, deeper dream. I'm going to make you a co-host, even if you have to jet, Cassie. If you can see anyone to let them in. So I'm going to start seated. You could do this laying down if that feels good to you. You could also do it standing. You could do it in a box. You could do it with, it's a green eggs and ham thing also. You could do it in any way that feels right for you right now. So the first level is just going to be feeling our skin. And we could feel our skin by touching it. So if it's helpful to like have some hands on and touch, go ahead and feel your skin by touching it. If it's more helpful just to feel it by feeling it, try that as well. And you can do this eyes open or closed, really tuning into what your body would be most nourished by right now. Like, do I need some hands on, or do I just need to just be in stillness and feel myself being a person here? I actually don't need any hands on, but I want to invite the idea of sensing even the hairs on our skin. So such lightness and delicacy as feeling the hairs on our skin. And on my body, I'm kind of covered with a very light down. So it may be different for you. You may have more wiry hair or more soft hair or no hair in places, but tuning into that surface area of whatever your hair is, whatever you have on your body. And thinking of the skin as this container for all of you. It's sort of the boundary between you and the outer world. So feeling into the edge of your body, coming to the boundary of your body. What's happening right on the surface of you? And we're going to add a continuum breath to this. So the continuum breath is called theta breath. It's a soft TH or an S. So it's your tongue just behind your teeth. And it's like this. Almost like you're letting the air very slowly out of a balloon or an air mattress. The theta breath can last as long as it feels comfortable. And then if you feel like you need resting breaths, you can take resting breaths. And if you feel like doing it at all is stressful in any way, then just breathe regularly. But we'll take maybe 2 or 3 theta breaths. You don't need to last as long as I do, and feel into the skin. So skin and theta breath. So for me, what happens in that theta breath is it starts to send an idea of more of a diffusion in my body. So I'm going to take us in a layer underneath the skin. And the layer is the superficial fascia. And what the superficial fascia, it's almost like corn on the cob. It's like this little yellow globs of fat in your fascia. And it may be like, oh my God, fat. But let's just pretend that we love it and it's there to serve us and to support us. And so it's not something threatening and horrible, but it's something wonderful and incredibly helpful for us to have as this means of communicating with the vibration of the world. It softens the outer world as it lands in us, and it also protects us. So tuning into the superficial fascia as a sense of, I want to say almost like buoyancy and like almost like the pillow between us, our skin, the world, and the inner deep fascia and muscle. So tuning into this layer of superficial fascia. And I'm going to invite a breath that's like yum. So you may feel that deeper, but see if you can let that vibrate in the superficial fascia. So we're doing kind of an, for the people who are just arriving, an inception meditation where we arrive deeper and deeper. We've been in the skin with theta. Now we're going a little layer deeper into the superficial fascia, like the bubbly fluid corn on the cob, that if we got really warm, it would be melty and soft. And if we were cold, it would get a little harder. So tuning in with a sound, like yummy, delicious. And if it becomes too much to do the sound, then just breathe regularly. I'm going to add one more layer to the even though we're in the superficial fascia, allow your tongue to kind of do whatever feels interesting inside your mouth. So it may be kind of rippling, flowing. Think of it like a sea creature, like a sort of amorphous sea creature that just has freedom to blob around. And if that moves into movement for you, it's totally fine. You can move in any way that feels good. If it feels good just to stay still, stay still. If micro movement becomes interesting, go for that, which is any movement that's very small. So what I notice when I'm doing this sound is it's slowing me down and giving, it's a heavier, more dense feeling for my body. And there's also more deeper relationship to my body, the relationship to the feeling inside my body. So let's go to one layer deeper than that. And that is, we're going to really sense into our midline and specifically into our cerebrospinal fluid. If these words mean nothing to you, then just sense into your midline and don't worry. But if cerebrospinal fluid holds meaning, I'm going to give it a little bit more meaning. It's the fresh water of the body, or the closest thing to fresh water. And it's bathing our nervous system and bolstering our brain and our spinal cord. And it filters through our body 3 or 4 times a day. So it's the fresh water. And we're going to tune into that with this Luna breath. It's either Luna or lunar. It's a continuum breath. And the idea is that it's almost like you're listening to a shell, to the sound of the sea, but you're the only person that can hear it. You could also imagine that you're listening to the sound of a ha inside your own breath with no vocal cords. So it's just internal listening. Nobody else can hear it. And you're just going with this internal sense of this almost diffused ujjayi breath, like the lightest, softest, tiny, slightly contracted breath that you can feel here inside. And your inhale will just be a regular inhale. And on the exhale, you'll play the Luna breath. It's almost like you're hearing the sounds of outer space inside your body. So tuning into the deepest layer of your midline with that idea. Eyes open or closed. And if it becomes stressful in any way to play that breath, just breathe regular resting breaths. And then from that sort of deeper space where maybe you have landed, feel down into the soles of your feet and your butt in the chair, or the soles of your feet standing, or if you're laying on the floor, feeling into the sense of gravity. And we're going to actually come to bone. So the idea of our bones and the sort of weightedness and density of our bones, and feeling how those connect into the earth. And so we can think of gravity as not being something that's pulling us down that we have to fight against, but something that also has sort of a rebound up into the structure of our body that helps support us. So our tissues build in accord with gravity. People who go into outer space lose the density of their fascia, the density of their bones, even the density of their blood. So thinking of the sense of gravity and the groundedness of us being connected to the planet as a support system for our body. It's not something that we fight against. It's something that's working with us at all times. It's something that's helping us to be what we are. So allowing ourselves to tune into that sensation. And if it feels good to, add some bouncing or any kind of up-downness with that gravitational pull of the earth and your ground force or rebound from it, feel free to add that. Maybe it's going to be an arch and a curl, or maybe you just want to sit with it for a minute. But feeling into the sense of having bones that are supported by gravity, they're building within themselves in accord with being on this planet. And from that idea, I want to move into something that's a little bit more slippery and fluid. And that's the idea of our joints and our synovial fluid. So the synovial fluid is like a, this is a really horrible mechanical metaphor, but I'm going to use it anyway. WD-40. It's like the little WD-40 of the joints. That is a grease that we put on like anything that's kind of stuck. So the mechanical idea of WD-40, we've just had a little tin man inside, greasing up the joints, greasing up. And as we come into that idea of synovial fluid, maybe finding some ways to spiral. The spiral can be any kind of spiral. If you feel like you're going big, then go big, start to find your spirals big, or maybe just be small. So all of this, you are invited to participate in whatever way feels most interesting and delicious. If we were talking in Laban terms, we'd talk about the rotary factor, the possibility of this rotation, which is a spiral. We can rotate ourselves around. My chiropractor used to say, Laura, you have these zigzag patterns in your body. Let's bring that into a spiral. And I have to say, it's true. I do have these zigzag patterns in my body. And on a good day, the zigzag becomes more three-dimensional and it turns into a spiral. And on a bad day, it's more jerky through there. So seeing if you can recognize any patterns that are in your body, what are those patterns? And can you play with them? Can you give them a different possibility? So you may find, wow, I really just want to go up and down. I really just want to go up and down. play with the pattern as long as you like. And then when you feel like, okay, now I've actually had enough of this pattern, let yourself move into some other pattern. Maybe it's a side pattern. Maybe it's a spiraling pattern. Letting yourself move in whatever way feels delicious. So moving towards pleasure. And I am trying to find a sense of internal and external shaping with my body that gives me a deep underlying sense of core support. And I don't mean core support like a Pilates person, like, make it really strong. I mean core support like an alive support in my core. So there's mobility, there's freedom, there's breath, there's blood flow, there's life force, there's lymphatic, all the stuff that's keeping me alive and healthy is part of that core support. It's the support of my organs, my heart, inside of my lungs, my thymus, my liver, my diaphragm, my stomach, all those exciting things, intestines, reproductive organs, letting that fluid support of your body enliven. It could just be with your breath. And if you start to feel tired or like, oh my God, this is too much, just sit still for a little while. Come into a stillness. Letting yourself feel what happened. So every once in a while, give yourself a pause. Feel into what happened, and then allow the desire for movement to arise before you start to move again, so that, oh, this might feel good. That might feel good, or I really need to stretch this out, or I really need to experience something different. So in movement analysis, there are these 4 major themes. And this is from Laban Movement Analysis. It's Laban Bartenieff. And the 4 major themes are inner and outer, how it's happening inside, how it's happening outside, which is obviously what this class is titled, Inner and Outer Space. Mobility and stability. So as my feet are stable on the floor, my body has this capacity to mobilize. There are all of these sort of these spectrums of one end to the other. What is stabilizing so that something else can be mobile? And like, or what is too stable? What is too mobile? What are the ends of the spectrum on these things? So I'm just going to name these themes and we can continue to play with them. Another theme is exertion and recuperation. And so the idea that sometimes, like, I could just go into the vertical. I'm in my vertical, that's my exertion. My recuperation from being in the vertical might just be being in the horizontal. I'm gonna use the horizontal to recuperate from so much up-downness, or I'm gonna use forward and backward to recuperate from that side stuff. So the exertion and the recuperation are just balance, essentially. If I do this for a while, maybe I need to balance it out with that. Been running around a lot, maybe I need to sit down. Been eating too much of this, maybe I need to eat some of that. So it's this balance of not super duper action and super duper inaction. It might be that, but it also might be, if I've been reading for a long time, I might go swimming as a recuperation. I might do something totally different. So it's just the idea of working with these balances to find balance. And then the 4th major theme is function and expression. So the function of something versus the expression of something. So it might be like, the function of my phone is that I can talk on the phone, I can do all these things. There are so many functions on a phone. The expression of this particular phone is it's black, it's shiny, it's, this isn't a great, this isn't a great example of function and expression. This we might say is very functional. Part of the expression on my phone is the photo in the background, right? That expresses something about me. So these are these balances. We could look at furniture, like really functional furniture, or really expressive furniture, like something more artistic, maybe is more in the expression phase than in the function phase. Just throwing these themes out at you so that when we look at something, we can go, function, expression, where does that land? Or mobility, stability, where does that land? Or exertion, recuperation, where does that land? And that all of these things are a dance that's constantly in flux, shifting and changing. All right, let's come in for a check-in and see what's landing and what's interesting and all that kind of stuff. Hear someone else's voice besides mine. So feel free to unmute.
Laura, the spiraling made me a bit dizzy. My body began to spiral in many different places all at the same time. My hips, my neck, my head, my arms, and the confusion. No, not confusion. I think the combination of all of the different spiraling at the same time made me quite dizzy.
So what did you do?
I did what you suggested, and I slowed down, and I had a moment of stillness.
Did it come back in then? Did you get undizzy?
It immediately, well, not immediately, but I soon began to spiral in one area and then added on. So I got back into it after I calmed the waters, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's such a great example of like, whoa, using the resource of the intelligence of your body to say, wait a minute, calm down, slow down, stop. Cassie, did you have something to say?
Well, I wanted to, Gregory, can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
I'm curious if after you paused and then slowed down, did you find other body parts, bless you, spiraling that you maybe normally don't think about? Did you find access to anything new or?
I found total stillness. I really got to being still, and I went back to the beginning of the exercise where I felt my arms were cradled as if I was holding a baby, and I started feeling the hair on my arms and started concentrating on how, not maybe not concentrating, but it became very present that some of my skin is loose and some of my skin is tight. And then my whole body dynamic started taking over of like, what do I really feel all over? And then I felt the tightness and the looseness of my skin and the hair. And then all of a sudden it just made me want to start moving again.
Awesome. Thanks for asking that question, Cassie. And thanks for your share, Gregory. That's so interesting.
I
What
enjoyed
else?
feeling the opposition. You said something about feet or toes. And so I was really feeling anchored in one place that allowed some freedom and mobility in the opposite other place, wherever that might have been. So I was kind of, and I was trying to see the visual of that oppositional pull, like a radiating outward as a pressing downward. So I think that helped me feel grounded as I started moving around.
What else?
I experience time constantly spiraling. That's like where I really a comfort zone for me is spirals. I'm not sure why. I'm not asking that question, but I sure do like spiraling.
Hanan just booked. Yeah, spiraling. It's such a, but we can also think like we can make it small, right? We doesn't like I get going and then it's all spiraling at once. And then you may see that and start doing that, but it could just be like, and it's interesting. It's very hard for me to move one thing. Like once I start moving my hand, I want to do this. I want to feel more, but I'm a movement junkie, right? So
I've done a lot of Indian dance with a lot of hand and the arm spiraling, but it's a long time ago. So it's like nice to revisit this and take it inner now. And now I want to take it inner.
yeah, it's also in flamenco. I had a ballet teacher. I had a ballet teacher who was a flamenco dancer when I was in college. She was from Spain, Maria Miras. And she had the most expressive hands that just like, I was like, wow, how does she do that? Like my idea of graceful hands didn't ever close when I was, whatever, 18. I wasn't even 18. I was doing it when I was in high school. So it was like 15. So my idea of like graceful hands, they had to stay open, but she had these hands that could just close and open. They were so graceful. So it's interesting how we have an assumption about something And then we see this version that's different. And suddenly we've opened up to a new possibility of what, and that's what I feel like with movement and studying movement, being in movement. The more that we start to see diversity in movement, the more we go, oh, there's something else out there. There's a different possibility. And if we really stay
And
rigidly with one style, then we kind of limit ourselves to, it's that militaristic lockdown idea. But a lot of people are very comfortable with that. It's safe. If we've locked it down and this is right and wrong, then we know the deal. It's, you know, that's it. Okay, that's how it's supposed to be. But if we don't, if we go into the more like, maybe this and maybe that, we have to come to the grips ourselves with what the movement is for us in that moment, right? As opposed to the expert on the outside telling us what's right and wrong.
the label, like I'm not into flamenco because I think I'm not into flamenco. I think about that. Well, maybe it's the costumes, and I could look a little more closely at all the dynamics that are very rich there.
Right. Yeah. What else? What else are people noticing in their bodies? Anything? Mo, how's it landing for you?
I've really appreciated being able to be so unspecific, like being able to just move without thinking about it and being able to try out new postures, kind of. That's been really good.
Yeah, awesome. So I want to play with some more structure, but I want to play with it in a seated form. So you're going to make this as big or as small as you want to make it. So what we're going to do is I'm backing up with my ottoman. Getting the ottoman over the carpet is always a little bit of an issue in here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to play with the cube. So we're going to imagine ourselves in a cube. There is a surface of a cube on top, the surface of the cube on the bottom. It's like you're sitting inside a square. And you have corners out here. So this cube idea is, it's very Laban. And I'm going to have to use my, my very falling apart cube that I have over here that I've made, which is now actually all tangled up with a computer cord. My visual aid, my really not very good visual aid. There we go. My imperfectionism. There we go. It's all jammed up with itself, and some of it has fallen apart. There we go. So here, yeah. It's such a sad cube. I really shouldn't be showing it, but weirdly, I'm kind of proud of my sad cube. Let's show a better cube that's obvious and everyone knows what it is. Boom. There is a very small little cube. So if you imagined that you are sitting inside the cube. And what we're going to do is take our shoulder to the right forward high corner. You're going to mirror me. This is actually my left, but taking your shoulder as big or as small as you want to right forward high. And then take the same shoulder in any way that you can to the exact opposite diagonal. Down to the exact opposite back. So we're going from right forward high, all three dimensions evenly into left back low. Is my shoulder really going to go back there? Not really. It's just an idea. Taking the shoulder right forward high, same shoulder. I could cross and try and get it down there, left back low. That's one way. Or I can go right forward high and I can kind of go the other way and try and get it back there, left back low. This could be a lot of movement. So don't go into it too much if it feels twisty and uncomfortable. But like already, like I can feel my organs going, oh, what's going on? What are we doing? One more time with that. Right forward high, let it move. And then I'm going to cross again to go to my left back low. And then come in and just feel. So that's really a cross body pattern we're working in. Feeling the opposition of that hip to that shoulder. Let's try it on the other side. So it's my right, but it's your left, mirroring me left forward high, taking the same shoulder. You can take it just back through your body to right back low, or you can take it left forward high and spiral to right back low. Or you can take it left forward high and you can try going the backwards way to spiral. So this is a way of just using space, the ideas of space, to try on and try out different movement in your body, as opposed to we're doing a crunch or we're doing, some kind of exercise. Now we're just moving body parts. So let's go with the arm. Same diagonals. Let's go to right forward high, and then we're going to cross the front and just reach to left back low. Right forward. And now, because Cassie loves that counter tension, let's get the other arm involved with a sense of counter tension. Right forward high, then we're going to cross to left back low. And one more time, right forward high to left back low. And this time I want you to, as you're going into the position, does it feel like anything that's familiar? Other movement that you've done or ever things that you've seen people do, does this feel familiar? To left back low. And let's go with the other side. So left forward high, crossing to the back, right back low. Left forward high diagonal to, how's that going on the ball over there, Lindsay? Looks pretty good. It's talking about mobility stability. She's got to do a lot of stabilizing so that she doesn't, because she's on a very mobile seat. One more time. Feeling what it feels like, if it feels familiar. Is this like anything you've seen or done before? And take it back. Yeah. So we were moving forward and high, and now we're going to move forward and low, and we're going to actually cross low and open to high. So I'm going to take this is my right hand, but you'll use your left. Cross over, mirror me to right forward low, crossing down, and then opening to left back high. Yeah. And this is a great opportunity to spiral. Take it down into that corner and then open up to the opposite back high. So I'm crossing my arms as I'm going down into, if you're mirroring me for you, it would be it's so hard for me to say it when I'm crossing and doing all the things and taking it back. So I'm not even going to say it. Last one, taking it cross to the front, forward low, and then up. Oh, so this is left back high, right forward low to left back high. One more time, right forward low. Does it feel familiar? Is there something else that you've done in your life or seen in your life that has this sense? Good. And then let's switch to the other side. So we're going to cross down to, and when I say right or left, it's not the body part I'm using, it's the space that I'm moving into. So I'm moving into left forward low, crossing and opening back to right back high. Moving into left forward low and opening back to right back high and moving into left forward low and opening back to right back high. Does it feel like anything? Is there something that you've done or some place that you've been that this feels, oh yeah, this is familiar? And let's bring it in. So we actually moved all the diagonals of the cube in sort of a weird way. Da, 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 da. We didn't move them with all the possibilities, but we moved all the diagonals. So what did you notice in there? What did you feel? Was there anything different, anything new? Go, Gregory.
Nothing that I've ever done before. New
So here's
sensation all around.
Wait, say that again.
New sensations all around. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Peen.
Yeah, with the movement going back, and this is giving me, I get very sad I feel compressed. I don't know what memory it is, but both sides opening up or going forward and crossing or spiraling is not a problem, but to the back, it's like, oh, so yeah, that's what I felt. So I'm gonna, yeah, maybe I will find out. I don't know. At this moment, I don't know, but that's what I feel.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, the whole story of our life, and not just our life, our ancestors' lives are in the tissue, right? So it's like, I'm just going to tell you about this study that they did with, I think it was with rats. And they did something horrible and traumatic to the rats, and they sprayed in the smell of cherry blossoms. And so these rats quickly learned to associate pain and awfulness with cherry blossom smell. The next generations of rats that were born that weren't subjected to the same stuff were terrified by the smell of cherry blossoms. So it just shows that, like, in our tissue, in our DNA, whatever, however it is, like, we're learning from each other. It's the only way humans could have survived for this long. If we weren't learning from what happened to the previous generations, we couldn't still be alive, knowing what was poisonous, what wasn't, like what might cause harm. So I feel like that's a very small and simple way of talking about how trauma is carried in our bodies from the past, like from the things that happened in our families and in our, Resma Mannequin talks about this in his book, but it's also My Grandmother's Hands, but it's also in our experience of like what happened. My family was in Norway, like what was happening there and they were occupied during war, but it's like, this is thousands of generations back, like all the awful things that humans do to each other. So somewhere in our bodies, like that's, if it hasn't happened directly to us, it's also happened to people that we've known or in our history. So there's all of that stuff holding on. And I feel like when we start to work with this micro movement and we start to work with letting our body go into different places, we offer a chance to heal some of that stuff that's in the system, right? In a weird way, I feel like this is why like embodiment work or somatic work or even just therapy is so helpful for humans. But I feel like when we do stuff, especially with working in groups, it's like, it's a chance to start shifting what the collective needs of healing are, to start to address some of that stuff that's locked into our nervous systems and into our DNA. So that's my deep, heavy thought. Welcome, Quentin. You came just in time for that. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so it's in there. And so when we start to address it, without even knowing necessarily we're addressing it, but by moving in different ways that aren't familiar, we're asking our pattern of us to become bigger in a weird way. And it doesn't mean bigger that it's going to affect other people, that we're not going to, but it gives us more capacity for response as opposed to reaction, right? We can come into feeling and go, oh, I'm here. This is what's going on. Or I'm really feeling triggered, or I'm really feeling excited, or I'm really feeling whatever I'm feeling. And I can be in my body part of what that is. I just talked a whole bunch. What else is going on? Lindsay?
I was going to add as well that as well as giving us another choice, it can also let us be more conscious of the choice that was maybe happening on a, what do I want to say, like reactive level. Like if we just reactively do something, it can let us go like, okay, I want to come in, or I want to protect myself. And it's, yeah. Other feedback for other stuff, the CSF stuff felt kind of like when I used to do Reiki and stuff, like this idea of energy coming down through my body. And I got my back cracked a lot in these twisting poses. Although I always find, because I have a tendency to bulge forward in shape flow, I tend to bulge forward. It's hard. My body struggles to do this. So I'm working with it. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm just going to name some of this stuff for other people in the class, because Lindsay actually is studying movement analysis. And so there's language in movement analysis, and part of it is called shape flow. And we did a lot of shape flow with our bodies. It's how the system of our own body is supporting itself. So the word bulging is a shape flow word. It's like we're bulging into the world, and that is like moving forward. If we hollow, we can move back. Although in our body, we could also talk about bulging in two directions and hollowing in two directions. Like we're moving out and away and we're coming in and towards. But let's just play with that bulging and hollowing for a minute, because I feel like this is going to not make us dizzy and not stir up too much, and also give us the feeling of closing and opening. So and it's basically a cat cow, it's a yoga move. And Liz Cook talks about this as like there's like warding, and then there's also like enclosing, like what these things are. Like it could be get big, scare away the animal, or it's a stick up, or whatever that move is, or oh my God, I'm having the best orgasm ever. It could be any of that stuff. But like our body has that, and then it also has this coming in. So let's just play with that, expanding and opening, and then coming into ourselves. And it could be very slow, but it's the head tail arching, opening out and away, and coming back in. And I just noticed as I went into that arch that my eyeballs really came online. And I always feel like that bulging forward in the chest and lungs is my sense of wonder. And then coming back in. And now I'm going to start to just add enclosing. So in the bulge, we can widen and open out. And in the hollowing, let's narrow and actually cross, even crossing the legs, if that's comfortable, but letting yourself open. This could just be widening and narrowing. We could just be doing it side to side, or we can add the up and down. So this can be very three-dimensional, or it could be very sort of more two-dimensional, very planar. I feel like I'm doing it really three-dimensionally. I feel like whenever we add that whole system of deep core support coming in, we're adding a whole other thing. So let's play deeper into one side of that. So it may feel good to come in and enclose. And if it's feeling good to come in and enclose, stay there a little bit and invite some micro movement into that, some tiny little movement, almost like your nervous system is bubbling. That's one of my images. I love like the champagne image, but sort of nervous system bubbling in that. Or you can also play in the outer, and you could put in the expansion, in the opening. One of them may feel much safer. Like when we close the front, it might be way safer, but it could be different on a day-to-day thing. It could be like, sometimes I get big and I feel good. I feel safe here. Or it could be, I feel so cuddly, closed and wonderful in here. So let yourself be in whatever feels good for however long you want to. Paying attention to your awareness as you're in there, at your awareness of awareness. What is arising? Yeah, and if you need to, I see we've got some nice side adding. So that would be an example of a recuperation with some spiraling or some side, because we've done this enough. Now we want to have some other things. So listen to your body and respond accordingly, right? Let your body do the thing that feels good to you. This is about learning and freedom with some form, but let yourself play with that. And if you feel better, like you need to get up and stand or start to move legs, let's play with this other idea, which is just growing and shrinking. So this is another sort of shape flow idea. You're getting bigger and getting smaller in any way, shape, or form. It could just be this is getting bigger and smaller. It could be a small, bigger and smaller, or it could be a huge, expansive, growing, and then shrinking. Let it be as big or small, any variety of that is interesting to you. Growing and shrinking. You could also inhale on the grow and exhale on the shrink, but maybe you're going at a different tempo than that. So work at whatever breath rate and tempo of growing and shrinking feels good to you. Maybe half is growing and half is shrinking. My upper body is growing, my lower body is shrinking. Or my lower body is growing and my upper body is shrinking. Like, how does that work? Playing with those ideas. As you're in your growing and shrinking, tuning into what you notice about what comes up for you in your growing and shrinking. Does it feel more airy? Does it feel more earthy? Does it feel more breathy? That's airy. Does it feel more sort of blood and fluid water? Or does it feel like energetic, fiery? Just throwing in some elements into it. And maybe all of them sometimes. or none of them sometimes, just tuning into what your associations with the growing and shrinking are. And I have started to add shifts in time effort. So some things for me are slowing down and then speeding up. And time effort is not like it's not effort as in how hard I'm working. It's just shifts in speeding up and slowing down. And let me add one more element, since we are a group, and that is to actually pay attention to the screen every once in a while, to see what's happening in other people's space. Maybe playing with other people. And as you're in that play, if any kind of images arise, if any kind of ideas arise, just take note of what they are. Really more free flow. So I'm going to throw in one more effort, and that is free flow, which is kind of childlike and unstoppable, and bound flow, which is much more mature and controlled. So letting yourself shift between really free flow, like little kids running around a playground, and then bound flow, where it's controlled and easily stopped. Free flow kind of has a not very stoppable nature, and bound flow has much more contained. I mean, bound flow could be very fast, but it's more muscular, and free flow more, yeah, just playing between those two efforts. And then listening into your body for any other type of expression that would feel good. So any other type of expression of movement, of breath, of energy, stillness, what would be delicious right now? Oh, and I think that I am going to share screen and actually add some music, which I almost never do. But I'm going to do it because it's Anthony's and I can use his music because it isn't put on a site. So it might take me a minute to find it. I think it's right here. Okay, so this music is just for us to dance to. I'll probably turn it off before it's over. How's that? Can you hear it? It's like flute. It'll be flute and synthesizer. And let's imagine that we're casting a spell together. We're casting a spell of like healthy body. Oh, it's the short version. So, yeah, nice to dance with you. There's actually a 5-minute version of that, but I think I only put the 3-minute version onto this computer. I want to answer Bonnie's question about this bulging and hollowing space harmony is new for me. And that is because bulging and hollowing is not part of space harmony. It's part of shape. So it's part of shape flow. So it's only, yeah. So like shape flow, bulging, hollowing, widening, narrowing, lengthening, shortening, growing, shrinking. And that's what's happening on a body level. But they all kind of align with space harmony because growing and shrinking or lengthening and shortening is sort of vertical. Yeah, I thought you would. Widening and narrowing is horizontal, bulging and hollowing is sagittal, right? So just, yes, exactly. Okay, so let's just come in for a reflection and a landing in, since we are in our last 5 minutes. There's a lot of material thrown in there. And my interest in this is to predominantly do space, but there's so much more to lob on than just space. And it all kind of interrelates. So we had some shape flow, we had a little bit of introduction to effort, and we did a lot of body level work. And then we had those continuum breaths of Luna, Theta, and we did the yum, which is in continuum in a few different ways, but it's also in just any kind of sounding thing coming into an ohm. We can feel that vibration. So what is going on in your bodies now? What have you noticed, and what might have been a learning moment or a noticing moment?
This was the first time I have been able to be on Zoom after a year and a half on Zoom. When we did the dancing together versus dancing alone, with people dancing in little boxes, we danced together. That was lovely. And I like sharing too, the energy. I was really into sharing the energy. I would do Reiki. It's just nice.
Yeah, it really is. I agree with you. Like moving in rooms with other people is super important to me. And just recognizing that we are together. We're not here by ourselves. We are here in a group. We can see each other. Yeah.
I thought
I'm very grateful to move and it helps me being with all of you to actually do some movement and explore things. So yeah, that's important for me.
Thanks, Peen. Mar, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was loving the moment when we were exploring the cerebrospinal fluid. It was as though it was a canal and joined with the subtleties of the, the energetic subtlety of continuum. It set the stage for such a wonderful, playful time and spaciousness.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad it worked for you. I feel like anytime that we enter into this, and the more that you become accustomed to working with these breaths or just improvising or playing with other people, the more spaciousness, the minute you enter, you can go, oh, here we are. We're in this place of play and wonder and possibility where we don't really have to know anything or be too expert about it, where we're like, okay, what is this? And I feel like that's it is the greatest gift from continuum, is to be able to land in something and just be in what's going on and in the question of it and curious about it. Like, what is this? Even whether it's whether you're feeling or you can go, oh, what is that? Once we're in that place, it's a different place. Yeah.
And I wouldn't do it without the group, because otherwise I'd be too busy. I'd have to do something else, but not.
Same for me. That's why I teach. Like I might dance for myself for 5 minutes, but I'm not going to do it for an hour, Yeah. What else? Quentin, you've been very quiet there.
Yeah, I came in the latter half of the space. I don't always have something to say. But since you mentioned it, I was but I was doing this is the first time I actually took notes, and probably prompted because I was a little bit late. I started to seeing like how much I could do bubbling without stopping to then compartmentalize it into another exercise. So can I mix bubbling with bound flow? Can I mix bound flow with growing and shrinking? And how I can keep it going without seeing them as separate, and also using my senses and flowing into different senses while I'm doing it. You know, like, you know, feeling the space as one continuous thing, as opposed to, you know, touching into and then I'm stopping and then starting again. And it's interesting because most of the time when I'm here, I feel that there's a subtle separateness between things, but I feel like I want to see how playful I can be with just melding and blending into each different space, and then sort of seeing them as one continuity. That's you know, throughout my day, I was like, oh, I'm listening now, I'm speaking now, as opposed to rather than in addition to, I'm listening and speaking. You know, I'm listening to how I'm eating. I'm feeling the space in my mouth as I'm eating. Can I penetrate the space of the fork and the food and the liquid in my body? Is that a dance rather than just, I'm just eating dry, tasteless matter? So those are things that come up for me.
That's so interesting. I'm glad I asked, and I'm glad you came up to say something. So I know we're at the end of our time, but I want to just check in with also with Mo and maybe with Virginia. Virginia, I don't see you, but you may be in the room. Mo, anything?
It's really interesting. I can feel my blood flowing now much more readily. And yeah, it just makes me want to keep moving, keep going. So that's where I am.
Cool. Virginia.
Can we have the 5-minute version next time, please?
Yeah, I'll download it. I didn't realize it was such a short one, but yeah. Yeah, it's we've used that piece in a bunch of shows. It's like, we call it the birth intro, because it's like this, you know, amorphous motion coming out and like, yeah. And let me say one more thing about it. In Laban, we have these drives. And spell drive is a drive that has no time in it. So it doesn't have fluctuations of time. It has these other things. And that was like totally a spell drive. Like, you may be slowing down, but it's not so timey. So it's just interesting to throw that in. And for people that aren't familiar with effort, that may just be like gobbledygook that I just said, but for people that have been studying it, it may make some sense. All right, I'm going to let you all go. And thank you so much for showing up. Use the materials, be free to make them your own, keep exploring. And this is all going to be on YouTube. I always upload these on YouTube, so feel free to look through the old ones and see what's happened. All right, nice to see you all. Thanks for coming. Big love.
Bye.
Bye.